That's trying to get ahead, man. So they were looking actually for free trade.
Well, free trade, yeah, to a degree. Free trade in the concept that it was going to be more free to them.
Yeah.
You were going to cut out all these middlemen. You were going to cut out the added cost of the land pirates. You're going to cut out the middleman in terms of the market. So these tolls and taxes, the added cost to thievery, and then the market from wholesale to retail were all added to the cost of the product that eventually made its way to the consumer. So the idea is you take one boat, right? Right. And even though Columbus was Italian, Genoan, it's who funds his trip? Spain, right? So the Spanish, they're funding this crazy idea that the world could be round. And that if you sail this Spanish ship around to this side of the world, load it up one time with the products, and then bring it back, you cut out all the tolls, you cut out all, for the most part, the land piracy, and you cut out the middleman here and get that product. So why was the America discovered? Yes, certainly on accident. What was the motive?
Money.
Yeah, ultimately it was the profit, or what profits may come from getting a product, the very same product that you can find here,
Without all
yes, cheaper, right? Right. Somebody you pointed out capitalism. Right? Why does capitalism work? Because the motive is to do it more efficiently, to do it cheaper, do it a better way, build a better mousetrap. That was the motive. The world had not been circumnavigated, right? They hadn't gone around. The circumference of the world was a guess. Nobody was sure. And Columbus's guess was off by quite a bit.
Has to be land masses.
yeah. The fact that there's land masses in the way is obvious that he was off a bit. But when he sails at a trajectory that you would think would take him to the right spot. But because he's so far off in the total circumference of the world, his calculation how long it's supposed to take him to get there, he never gets to the East Orient, puts him into kind of a weird situation where they haven't spotted land, they haven't spotted land, they haven't spotted land. So the first land they ultimately do spot, they assume this has to be it. We have to have made it. And they didn't. And that goes back to that, why we call it the West Indies, right, versus the East Indies. We're looking for the East Indies. We hit the Caribbean, which we also call the West Indies. I will not ask you for years. You'll never have a test question on my test that saying, in what year did Columbus sail the ocean blue, or what year did John Cabot sail under an English flag, sail out from England on an English flag, hit the eastern seaboard, find newfound land, right, exactly. Hits this Newfoundland, takes it back. That's a few short years after Columbus. And then you have Amerigo Vespucci who comes in and, based on his discovery, we call America America, and not Columbica. Cambodia. Wait, no, Cambodia. At any rate, the idea is that other individuals come after Columbus, but Columbus was the first. He was the trailblazer. And though it wasn't his goal, we celebrate him, we celebrate his adventure today. But Cabot is as important to us, I think, as Columbus is, particularly since we are eventually English. It's Cabot's discovery under the English flag that at least allows some rational claim by England of the eastern seaboard. You have Spain down here, you have France up and over, you even have Portugal in the mix, Russia over from the Alaskan side. You have different countries who are carving up the new world, colonizing and claiming, and not all countries colonized like England did, established their colonies, but there were different towns, colonies. You get into Mackinac and Montreal and Quebec and Detroit and just Michigan and Wisconsin with their French connection there. Wisconsin, we call it WIS today, but it was OUI back in the day. But at any rate, that claim from Cabot, from Cabot's excursion, eventually allows England, I guess, some semblance, some rational reason as to why the English seaboard should be their territory. But the race is on. The race is on to establish and to conquer and to control. And what are we controlling? Controlling the raw resources. Sending those raw resources back. Strengthening the homeland based upon the establishment of the colonies in the New World. England was much more, I guess for lack of a better term, efficient at their colonization. In the English model, you had this idea that the colonies would act as captive markets, or a captive market. And as a captive market, those raw resources didn't get put on the world market. They were sent specifically to England. And England then took those raw resources from the New World and refined them and it sent them out to the rest of the world as product, including back to the colonies. If the colonists, or when the colonists, as you would think would happen, would have said, well, let's find out what a boatload of whale oil goes for in Spain. What are they going to pay us for this? You can imagine that in England they say, oh, time out, wait a second. We don't want to compete for our own resources here. These are our resources. You send those resources to us. We'll share with you, what they're worth. We'll give you a fair value for that. All right? So they clamp down on that. And they do that through what are called the Navigation Acts, which are not just one set of acts, or multiple set of acts, but within the Navigation Acts are procedures for trade. Are dictates in terms of if you're an English ship, you will port in an English harbor. And so that keeps these English ships from the colonies from going to Spain, from going to France, from going into the Caribbean, which is already sliced and diced with the Dutch and the different countries, France and Spain, and just simply going under one flag and coming out under another. Contraband, that black market, trying to clamp in on that. And if over here in the colonies said, well, rather than send these raw resources over to be finished and then buying these finished products back, why don't we just finish the products here? Right? Why don't let's build some of these factories over here and mass produce some of the stuff being produced over in England. And again, time out, wait a second. We don't want you to produce the stuff. We just want the raw resources. Just send us the resource. That's our relationship. All right? And though I'm maybe simplifying it a little bit, there's certainly a lot of individuals who came to this new world who did not have to toil and send over raw resources, who didn't dream about manufacturing. They just moved west across the ocean for just that autonomy, that freedom of distance. It's not like when you can remember back when your parents used to go out of town, right? Senior year, your parents would go, hey, we're going out of town, be responsible. You're like, okay. And they're gone, right? That autonomy of distance, that freedom of distance, all right? Kind of doing those things that probably ought not have done, right? We all did them, except for me.
My mother's scary, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And then you pay the price when they come back, right? Well, you want that freedom? You can just come over to this new world, and it was there for you. The distance, the autonomy distance. And that was certainly a draw for individuals, okay? So not every individual was caught in this captive market situation. But for those who were, it was clear that the relationship certainly favored the homeland versus those individuals who were mechanizing, who were come bringing the resources together here. The seeds of revolution are sown. Now, we're only in, by the time we finally get these, the first colonies, Roanoke Island with the attempt, is the late 1500s, 1580s, right? I think it was established, St. Augustine, I think it was established in 1585, late 1500s, but that's Spanish. First English settlement, the attempt Roanoke Island, Sir Walter Raleigh, that doesn't go over so well. If you know your history, you know that those 100 or so colonists who were dropped off that island, you go back to get some supplies, you get caught up into an embargo, you come back out of it, and boom, everybody's gone. Disappeared. Don't know where they are. I think they found a shoe, and that was it. What happened to them?